Hello and welcome to the continuation episode on the Galaxie with the 428. So as you can see in my little flyby video there in the beginning, I got the motor tore down. Now the one thing I would recommend to anybody doing this is go slow. Not because you gotta remember where everything is, which, you know, granted you should. You know, mark as much stuff, lay as much stuff out as you can, do all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, when you're taking apart a motor that's as new as this one, that you're trying to find something wrong with, you can really blow through and go and pass up some significant problems. And so with this one, that's what we're going to do today. Is we're going to talk a little bit about what I found wrong with the motor, what's going to happen with the motor, and then going forward at the end, I'm going to talk about what's going to happen to the car within the next couple weeks, and at the end, give you some information on what's going to happen with the channel. So let's dive right into it. The motor, as I started to disassemble, was really starting to get frustrated with it. Couldn't really find anything wrong with it. I was going over all of the valve train as we were discussing before. You know, all the lifters and stuff look good. The camshaft looks good. I did find a few things in the beginning which were kind of leading me to believe that there was more to this than what was going on. Timing was good. The degree wheel came out to, I think I have it written down, right? I wrote it down. I think it was 107, yeah, 107.5 on the degree wheel. So that all checked out. Everything checked out as far as camshaft looks good, lifters look good. Of course, we knew push rods were scored because of the old valve train that was in it. And that valve train that I listed before a long time ago, that's actually this one here. I gave the instructions away to the person that I gave the old valve train to, so they had, you know, reference points, that kind of stuff. So was really, you know, starting to get pretty frustrated. What led me into everything is this piston right here, number 8. This piston here, it's shinier than the rest, and so I knew it had an oil issue. So I thought, okay, let me pull it out, and I want to see the separation on the oil ring. So there's the top, where is it? There's the top oil ring right there. I actually moved it out a little bit. The other ring, the bottom is right there. So yeah, I actually moved this one. So this used to be the top ring was over here. I actually straightened it out because I was thinking I was going to clean it and put it back in the car. The top ring gap is here. The bottom ring gap is over here. They're 90 degrees apart from each other. That's the way it should be. Or not 90, sorry, 180. They should always be separated like that so that the oil can't just, you know, go right through. These were right next to each other, which led me to believe, oh, okay, that's probably where a lot of this oil was coming from, was just getting past the oil scrubbers. Then I was going to go into checking the ring gaps. The rings all looked pretty good, but what I was still noticing is that there was a lot of gap piston to bore, right? So if we roll this thing over, this is number 8 over here. So I was noticing there was a lot of gap piston to bore. And don't worry about the rod hitting the bore right now. There's a lot of gap. Piston shouldn't do that. And so then I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be a problem. As I pull it out, you can see here. See that orange mark? Basically what it was is there was a piece of trash that got in the oiling system and almost cut that bearing completely in half. Let me take it over to the good camera so you guys can get a look on that. angle it where you guys can see that. I mean, it is almost cut that bearing completely in half. And so I thought, wow, you know, that's definitely an issue. And then as I look into the bearing, I actually see the piece that was rolling around and embedded into the bearing. It's right, was it on the cap maybe? Yeah, it was in there. But anyways, you could see the chunk of metal that was rolling around, just cutting the bearing in half. And so you'd think, okay, well, the crank's got to be completely trashed. But, you know, of course, the crank is made of a lot harder metal. There's a lot of trash coming out of this thing. The crank is made of a lot harder metal than the bearing, of course. And so it marked it. It did put a mark in it, but you can't feel it with your nail. Your fingernail is a big telltale whenever you're building motors. If you can catch a nail on something, that's bad. If you can't, most likely it's just a surface imperfection, which that's what it is. It took the polish off of it and just made it dull. And so in going through this thing and pulling out a lot of the threaded plugs and that kind of stuff, what I noticed was that they didn't clean the block at all. The block hasn't been bathed, pressure washed, anything. In fact, here, I'll show you. As I was taking the freeze plugs out, no, you got to go to the other side. Hang on. Let's go around. As I was taking the freeze plugs out, I was noticing I was getting a lot of junk out. I don't know if you can see that in there, but it is just tons and tons and tons of junk. Hopefully you guys can see that. I tried to adjust my headlamp a little bit more. This one too, just tons and tons of junk. Rust and shot peen and everything mixed together. This one's the same way. These cylinders, the water passages on the other side, same way. So that's just too bad. This itself, water jackets, won't really cause much of an issue. Yeah, it's gonna not cool very well, and you know, it's gonna have some cooling issues. And as it jumps around and circulates around through the cooling system, it could plug the radiator, and you know, there's lots of reasons why not to have it that way. But as far as engine performance, I mean, other than just maybe possibly getting hot, it's not really going to do anything. So this piston here, again, is what led me down the rabbit hole. And so immediately I got the micrometers out and started miking all the bores. I mic'd all the bores in 8 different locations, 4 on the horizontal and 4 on the vertical, up and down, because I wanted to see how round the cylinders actually were. That led me to confirm that this is a 40 over bore. Now, if you remember back in the other episodes, I confirmed that these are 30 over pistons. And so as I started to mic the bores, I grabbed the mic and mic'd the piston. Sure enough, what they had done was they had ground the block 40 over and put 30 over pistons in it. I've never seen that before. This is definitely a first for me. Surprisingly enough, the cylinder walls are actually pretty straight. So these are all the cylinders here. 4.170 was like, I would say probably like 85-90% of the numbers that I got. It wasn't until the bottom of the bores that I was actually seeing 4.171, so they're actually getting tighter on the bottom. I'm sorry, not tighter, looser. They're opening up. It's so minute though, that it just doesn't. It's basically a 4170 all the way on all the cylinders. A little tighter, like I said, at the bottom, or looser at the bottom. Sorry, I keep saying tighter. But that's all I could find with that. All the pistons mic'd out good because of course they're all brand new. So why wouldn't these mic out nice? And they all did. Unfortunately, they're all ruined because of how the pistons were slapping around in the bores. I mean, where's that flashlight? There it is. So if you look down all the cylinders, you know, you're gonna find these marks on the vertical, not the horizontal, because the pin is on the horizontal. So that means the piston can rock back and forth on the vertical, and so that's why you see all of this the bad scratching on the vertical marks, top and bottom on the cylinders. So that's just completely ruined. The bad part is this motor. I also found some trash in the bearing, especially this front bearing right here on the cam. So it just, you know, more confirms. Plus on a couple of the other rod bearings, I found marks where debris had got into the oiling system. And the way the debris gets in is when you build it, whatever's in the oiling system at that time is free to move freely throughout the motor until it goes into the pan, then it gets sucked up and goes through the filter. So when you build a motor, you have to be extremely cautious and flush and wash everything. Soap and water is your best friend. Pressure washers are your best friend. Scrub the thing down. Soap and water is not going to hurt it, you know, because you're going to go right back to building it and it's going to get oiled, and so it's not going to get rusty. And if you're worried about it getting rusty, soap and water the thing down, scrub it down, and then fog it with some WD-40 or some other, you know, kind of lubricant to keep it from rusting up. But anyways, poorly built engine. Again, back to the bad part. This is 40 over. That's about the limit of what the standardized community stops making parts for this thing. There are other pistons out there. It's basically for race applications. It's for high compression applications, boosted applications, that kind of stuff. So there's a couple options here. I can still go 50 over, 60 over, I think. I got to talk to the machine shop. I have to have him take a look at this block and see what condition it's in. Can we go over? Is it lined up? Is it straight? Is it good? You know, what's all wrong with it? Because from what I'm seeing right now, a really bad machine shop, engine building shop, got a hold of this thing and completely foobarred every single thing. Which, you know, I mean, you go to buy a car, the guy hands you a piece of paper from an engine builder that built the engine. I mean, it's about as useful as, you know, receipts from a Craigslist car. So it doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely nothing unless it's some very high-end engine building shop. Even then, who knows if the paper's right, like I was saying in the beginning. Anyways, back to what we can do with this engine. I'm going to take it over tomorrow, drop it off at the machine shop. I'm going to have him thoroughly inspect it and see what we can do with it. They do make 50 and 60 over pistons. In the 50, it's more, at least what I'm seeing readily available, is more of a stroker kit. So you change the crank, change the connecting rods, change the pistons, and it turns it into like a 463 or something. I can't remember what it was, but it's like a stroker kit, which that'd be pretty cool. You'd never know that this thing was stroked, and it would look like, you know, just your average run-of-the-mill 428 with Edelbrock heads on it. That'd be pretty cool. But if 50 is not enough, if it needs more to straighten it out, If we go 60, then I can drop back to standardized rods and pistons, and then just go with your basic run-of-the-mill stuff. 60 over, which is, that's it. That's the limit. If this can even go that far. I mean, I'm looking down the water ports, and these cylinder walls aren't very thick. So then it leads to the third thing that you can do, and that's to sleeve the engine. I don't really want to sleeve it. The last engine shop that built it decked it. When you deck a motor, so if your motor, if you got a V8, V6, whatever you got, right? The cylinder heads sit like this. And so if you take material off of where the cylinder heads sit, it moves the cylinder heads down and down and down and down and down. Well, what sits between the cylinder heads? The intake manifold, right? And so how is it going to line up properly if the cylinder heads are so far out of whack because it got decked so many times? Don't ever deck an engine unless you have to. That's the only time you should ever deck an engine. They can make corrections, decking corrections in the manifold and that kind of stuff. It's a pain, man. Just don't deck it unless you have to. And so the one time I would deck this engine is if you sleeved it. So once you sleeve it, then you got to deck it, because you got to bring those sleeves down to the deck height. So here we are. Completely foobarred engine. Cam is actually good. That's the one part I thought was absolutely junk. Nothing wrong with it. Absolutely fine. And in fact, there's so much nothing wrong with it that I'm actually going to keep it, because hoarder life. But you never know. I might throw it into another engine. The lifters are good. Cam's good. Push rods are garbage, but who cares? Pistons, it's sad, because these are actually nice pistons. Connecting rods. Oh, connecting rods. I didn't touch on that. They are so bad out of round, and the caps don't fit on them anymore. So I struggled getting the pistons out, because when you pulled the caps off, generally you got to pop them and then they'll slide apart, right? No, not these ones. And then so I'm battling getting these things apart. When I finally do get them apart, I pop them back together, and the cap doesn't even sit flush on the rod. It's so far out of whack. And then you could see where the machine shop went in there and they tried to true up the rods, or I don't know what they were doing, but they're completely ruined, all of them. I don't know why. Why would you even touch them? And then you're probably sitting in your chair right now saying, well, they probably switched the caps. Well, the one thing about Ford, most of the manufacturers, that I can remember, they stamp the rods. So the rod is stamped 5, and on the cap it's stamped 5. And then for whatever reason, the machine shop, they also put a 5 and a 5. Now, are these caps from this motor, or are they from another, from these connecting rods, or did they mix up a pile of connecting rods and just started grabbing caps 5 for 5 and 4 for 4 and then tried to just make them fit? That part I don't know, couldn't tell you. But they are all completely ruined. The bearings, in fact, when I was taking them out, most of the times the bearing, they're as you put the bearing in the rod, it's kind of a pressed fit, they'll pop out. But as I started to separate the cap from the rod, the bearings just basically fell out. And then you look at the bearings and they're all spider web cracked. Let me see if yeah, right here. I don't know if you can see that. Let me try and get my body out of the way so the camera focuses on it. I don't know if you can see that or not. But all of those marks are transfer marks from the cap. The cap has like this chatter effect looking to it, and then when you look real close, I don't know what I did with my little magnifying glass, but when you look real close, they almost look like hairline fractures. So it's really interesting. I don't know. So that's it with this motor. It's got to be completely rebuilt. Crank, I didn't put a micrometer on it. At this point, I kind of just don't want any more bad news. I haven't pulled the main caps either. Because like I said, I don't want any more bad news. I mean, it doesn't matter. I can always get another crank. But, you know, I'm just mentally drained on this thing. Been going slow, taking a look at everything really, really close to see, you know, it gets to a point where you've found so many problems that you know now why it was just a dog. But then going forward, the rest of it really doesn't matter too much because the machine shop's going to check the block, magnaflux the block, clean, magnaflux, bore. Same with the crank. They're going to look over the crank, check it out, make sure everything's good. And then based on what he tells me he can do with the cylinder walls, I'm going to order parts. And so if we can go 50 over, I'm going to do the cranker, the stroker, sorry, the cranker, the stroker. And so it'll be end up being like a 463 or something like that. So that'll be pretty cool. You won't be able to see any of the stuff, but you'll get a little more oomph out of the motor, which that's what the owner wants. He wants it to kind of be a sleeper. So I can definitely, with a little slight stroker kit, I can get, you know, some more HPs out of this thing. So that'll be cool. But basically, whatever the machinist tells me is going to be it's going to dictate how I order parts. And so that's yet to be, you know, ordered yet, and haven't really decided on that. Need more information, basically, is where I'm at. So that's the deal with this engine block. It's in very bad shape. It's on life support right now. We might have to pull the plug on it. I don't know. Obviously the block is still good. We just might have to sleeve it. Well, like what you said, you know, it's not the best thing to do in the world, but if that's your option, that's your option. So we'll see what happens with this, and I'll keep you guys informed and let you know. But yeah, the bottom end was completely destroyed. There was nothing wrong with the top end. Valve train was good, heads are good, rockers are good. It was all in the bottom end. You know, the connecting rods, pistons were absolute garbage. I never did check the rings, the gap on the rings, because I went down as soon as I found out that these two were different sizes. I mean, at that point, what does it even matter? The cylinder walls are scarred, in my opinion, too much to just dingle ball, especially on number 8 over there. You can catch your nail on it. Even though they are pretty straight, I think it's too much to dingle ball and just put another piston in. I really need this motor too to be good. I'm not trying to do it cheap, I'm trying to do it right. Because when the owner comes back to drive this car, I want him to be happy. I want to see a smile on his face, and I want him to, you know, giggle back like when he was in high school or whatever. So that's what I'm trying to get out of this. I want to build a nice solid engine that just runs hard and will do that reliably. And I don't think that just dingle ball and putting a set of pistons in is going to be adequate. Could it be okay? Yeah, but I'm trying to gather up all of the little HPs, the ones hiding in the corners and the, you know, under the rug, and gather them all together and put them into a bottle so that we got all of them coming out of this thing. I am going to put headers on it, just not right now. So I'm going to put the same headers that are in my car, I'm going to put them on this car. Because again, that's that little bit more flow. You'll get a better torque value out of those. Exhaust is going to flow better. The car's just going to sound better and be a little bit stronger. So again, trying to pull all those little HPs out of the corner. So what's going on with the car? Well, what I decided to do was yesterday I rented a motorhome, and we're going to take this car to the duct tape drags. Now, if you know anything about duct tape drags, you'll know they're at the end of the month, so I only got like a couple weeks to put this car together. And you're probably staring at this motor going, So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this motor, drop it off at the machine shop. My buddy's going to jump in the truck with me to go to the machine shop, and in his garage sits a brand new freshly built 390. So, and he's like, just, you know, you can borrow the 390, take that. I'm not using it. I don't have a car for it to go into. He built it for a specific car years ago and then ended up selling the car. And so he's got this brand new 390 sitting there without a home, you know. And so he's like, why don't you take 390, put it in that 7-liter for now. Go out, have a good time with the car while we're building this 428, because this is going to be, it's going to take a while, 3-4 months, something like that, to finish this engine. It's going to be a while. It takes, when you're doing it right, you want to take your time and make sure everything's done right. This is not like the engine build TV shows where they're, you know, throwing it together before lunchtime, because they have all the parts, they know the direction they're going to go. This is a long process. When you need to check all of the parts, check all of everything you got before you could just start ordering stuff. If I just start ordering stuff, I'll end up like the last idiots. The machinist was over there boring this thing out to 40, going, "Oh yeah, this thing's gonna be freaking awesome, man," you know. And the guy in the office is ordering pistons, going, "Oh well, it looks like there's 30 over pistons available. Let me order those." Now, you know, before you even touch the block, you get the pistons in. Then you mic your piston and you set your bore. That's how you bore an engine. You don't bore the block and then order pistons. You'll end up with this crap. You know, there's a tolerance depending on what you're going to do. Boosted application, turbo application. Well, that's boosted, and so is supercharged. But they do have different tolerance numbers. Nitrous, street strip, high RPM, low RPM. You know, whatever your application, there's a tolerance for the piston to the cylinder wall, right? And if you're trying to get real accurate about it, then that's what you'll do. You'll sit there and play and get those tolerances exactly what you want for the application that you're building the engine for. Obviously, there was a disconnect in this one. And it's funny too, because on the paperwork you can see it. I thought it was just an error. You can see where the paperwork wrote 40 over bore. And then you look at the pistons, and the pistons are 30 over pistons, and you're like, no, you know, the guy who wrote 40 over on, you know, who was doing the engine probably just messed up and wrote 40 over when he meant 30. No, he bored at 40 with 30 pistons. Anyways, back to this. Duct tape drags, end of the month, 27th and 28th, I think are the dates, Friday and Saturday, Tucson, Arizona. I built that car, the 65 hardtop, to go to the duct tape drags. I planned on taking that car to the duct tape drags this year, except for Tucson, Arizona at the end of September is wicked hot. I'm talking hot. So this car would be awesome because it has air conditioning. And then I thought, I've got a 3-year-old. I'll bet you he'd like to go to the Tucson Speedway and see the duct tape drags. And I know my wife would like to have a break for a couple days, you know, a vacation where she's just sitting with her mom and, you know, watching movies or, you know, doing whatever they want, taking naps without having to worry about a 3-year-old running around screaming. So I rented a motorhome, and then I'm gonna throw the 390 in this thing, finish the air conditioning, and put the interior back together in 2 weeks. Put this thing back on the ground. Hopefully put it on, I think that motorhome will pull the car hauler out there. Hopefully it will. If not, then we can always just drive the car. So it's going to be me, my buddy Jason, and my son Archer. We're going to go to the duct tape drags. So if you plan on going to the duct tape drags, or if you live around the Tucson area, look it up. It's pretty inexpensive if you're going to go just check it out. Even really, if you want to take a car, I think it's only like $125 if you want to take a car. The pit crew pass, I think, is $55. So if you want to go be with the car near the drag strip, you got to have the pit crew guy pass. So that's $55. If you don't care, if you just want to let your buddy just push the car up there by himself or be up there by himself, then you can just buy the general admission. I think it's like $25, which, yeah, you know, that's not too bad. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is, if you got some time, you want to have some fun and you don't mind the heat, Tucson Raceway in Tucson, Arizona, 27th and 8th, I think is what I said. Yeah. It's going to be a good time. Now, if you're here in Southern California and you want to go to the races, or you know, you're around the Southern California area and you want to go to the races, Freiberger is the one who actually puts the races on. And he meets over at Pomona. Look it up. Go on to his, if you go on to Duct Tape Drag's website, you can get all this information. But anyways, last year we went over and we met up with Freiberger and everybody that was traveling, and we traveled with them on that Friday, which was fun. Honestly, it was a lot harder on the cars. There's a lot of people that do that. So if you don't mind being, you know, this gigantic group of people, then yeah, it's actually a pretty good time. This time I'm going to skip that side of it, and I'm actually going to leave Thursday evening, and I'm going to travel there at night. It is hot and it's hard on the cars. So especially if I have to drive this thing with a brand new 390 in it, I don't want to overheat it going across the desert. So we're going to leave Thursday night, probably have some dinner, pack up the motorhome. Again, hopefully that motorhome will pull it. It's a, you know, it's a van front. El Monte RV calls it their large. I don't know, whatever it is. It got a trailer hitch on the back of it. I don't see why it wouldn't. But I guess we'll check it out. If not, we'll drive it and go out there and have a good time. So there's tons of stuff going on. Go on the website, check it out if you're interested. There's Battle of the Beaters. They usually have some kind of 50s hot rod, you know, drag racing going on. They got all kinds of cars. There's car shows. There's Derek's Burnout Box from Vice Grip's Garage. So if you like doing burnouts, they have Burnout Box. I can't remember if there was any type of like rallycross or road, you know, the little parking lot racing and going on. I can't remember if there was any of that, but there's a lot. Basically, what I'm telling you. There's quite a bit to do over that 2-day period. It is so much fun that my buddy Jason, I think this is his 3rd or 4th year going. This will be my 2nd year going, and yeah, I mean, it's an absolute blast, really. Anybody with a car, doesn't matter what you got. In fact, the cheaper the car looks, the better. That's what they want. It's the Duct Tape Drag. It's supposed to be, you know, a $5,000 or less car is what you're supposed to take. Not what you're supposed to take, but that's the Battle of the Beaters. So there's a whole race where, you know, you take your car, you submit it, they judge whether or not it's actually a $5,000 car or not, and then you can go drag race it. And it's like bracket racing. So you go through and you know, and race until the last guy standing, basically. From what I understand, the same guys won it for quite a few years now. But anyways, that's not the point of it. It's the point is to go out and have a good time. So if you don't have the money, doesn't matter. If you got a junk car, doesn't matter. You can still go out there and have an absolute blast. I don't need to bring a $250,000 '68 Camaro or a, you know, $100,000 7-liter. I can take my '65 hardtop that I paid literally $5,000 for, put a $5,000 engine in it, and, you know, a few $1,000s worth of suspension and brakes, but, you know, basically that's a $5,000 car because it's not how much money you've got into it, it's what someone else is willing to pay for it. I could take that car and run it on the drag strip. Why am I not taking that car? I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I thought this one would just be more fun. You know, she's a looker. It's a 7-liter. You don't really see them all that much. Plus, it pushes me to get the car kind of finished. I need to get the air conditioning back in it. I need to get the interior put back together on it. Dropping a 390 in it's super simple. I mean, a couple hours and that's done. So finishing this car up enough, even with a 390, is just kind of, it's a good thing for that car. It needs to get finished. It needs this motor in it, which it'll get, you know, probably somewhere around next year. But for now, it can hang out with a 390 and have a good time. Honestly, you can't tell the difference between a 390 and a 428 anyways. So it'll look like it's supposed to be there, which is good. So, and that's all that really matters. I'll probably run it down the drag strip a couple times just to have a good time with it and see what it does. It's gonna be slow. I'm not expecting it to be fast or anything. But that's not the point to the car or the point to go into this. One, I want to take my son to it, give my wife a break. And then two, just go out there and have a good time. So if you're in the area or you want to go to take a look, look it up online, duct tape drags, and go have a good time, man. I'll tell you, you will have a great time. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. This thing is an absolute disaster. Just something to be prepared for when you buy a car or you're buying an engine. Just because an engine shop built it doesn't mean anything. But it's the gamble you take. You never know. So I would rather buy an engine built by somebody I know than just some random engine shop, because you don't know them. But you know, that's the gamble you take. Hopefully we've got a good engine. I'll keep you guys up to date on this and let you know what's going on with it as I get more information back from the engine shop, and let you know the direction we're going to go. As I go to build this engine, I'm going to bring you along step by step. I didn't bring you along for the investigation on what's wrong with it because it's just kind of boring. It's a lot of time spent in micrometers, and you know, I mean, it's a lot of time spent. Just really boring. But as we go to build this thing, there's a lot of things we can do to improve upon the design and help the motor, and really kind of give you guys an idea on how to build an motor in case you've never built one before. Things to look out for, things to do. Every motor is a little bit different, so even I'm going to be looking up things to do on this motor, things you should do, things you shouldn't do, that kind of stuff, and we'll, you know, go down the path of building this thing together. If you guys are still interested in the 68 Camaro, wiring, you know, that's where I'm at. Yay. So that's the update on the Camaro. Hopefully by the time I'm 80, it's done. I don't know. Don't know what to tell you. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. And as always, guys, until next time.